Hi everyone, I'm Saloni Budra and I'm 24 years old. I'm a counseling psychologist by profession. When I was 19 years old, I, along with a friend Deepika Daga, we started an NGO called Paddling Foundation. We are trying our best to eradicate period poverty in our own capacity. Today, I'm here to talk about a topic that is so hushed in India, yet majority of the population gets it, and that is menstruation. Before we get into this topic, let's talk about what is this word called period poverty and why is it so common and yet so not talked about. Period poverty is basically when people who menstruate do not get access or cannot afford menstrual hygiene related products. In a country where more than half the population menstruates, half of them do not even have access to basic resources to deal with menstruation. I was born in a very modern family where I was always told to push forward and you have to make sure that you're prioritizing your career in future and you're not getting distracted. So I feel very happy and privileged about that. However, every time, once in a month, I was made to feel like I was isolated from my family. And that was during my periods. So every time I got my periods, my parents and my family told me to sleep separately, eat differently, not to eat in the same plate, to not enter the kitchen, to not pray during that time. And that made me question, am I really that privileged? And do I really have that during periods they're making me separate and they're isolating me? These made me question a lot, and I thought that someone coming from such an educated background is experiencing something like this in such a common form, then what about the people who are not from a modern side of the family? So a lot of questions came to my mind and I thought, why not research a little bit more about this? When I researched, I got to know such disturbing facts about our country which made me more passionate about what I do today. I realized that there is a concept called menstrual hut. Basically, menstrual hut is a hut, like an actual hut which is made for people who menstruate. So every time you menstruate, you're made to go to these huts and live there. Now you might be thinking, what's so difficult about living in a hut? It is not as easy as you imagine it to be. Basically, menstrual huts are places which have no ventilation, no washroom, it is isolated from the village where people come from, it has no access to any kind of resources, and trust me when I say this, you do not even have the place to move around there. That is the current scenario of India. In places like Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, these are still existing. So if you are thinking menstrual hut is still a taboo in India, it is not, it is a fact, it is a reality, and a lot of women are made to go there and stay there. Reading about these things made me question, why are we sitting so casually when our world is finding solution for all kind of problems, be it artificial intelligence and any other kind of problems, there are solutions made within seconds. But when it comes to period poverty, where half of the women who menstruate, we still do not have access to resources. 1 out of 5 girls every year in India, they drop out from schools because the schools do not have restrooms. 15,000 schools in India do not have restrooms till date. And the schools that have restrooms do not have right ways of disposal, which makes a lot of women not go to school because if there's no way to dispose your pad, what will you do when you're going to the washroom then? People who go to schools when they're menstruating, they end up missing the schools for 40% of the days because 40% of the days it gets difficult for them to manage their schools with their period pain. This is the current scenario of India. Other than this, there are a lot of other things that I read which I realized that we are still not as forward as we believe to be. There is a district in India which I'm pretty sure most of you haven't even heard. It's called the Wombless district of India. It is the Beat district in Maharashtra. There, women are told to remove their uterus altogether so that they do not get periods in the first place, so that they can continue working instead of taking period leaves. Reading these things, I realized I cannot sit back at home and comfortably, like with AC, with hot water bags, with hot water in general, with cold showers, literally with all the access to all the luxury products, I experience a lot of period pain. And that made me realize that if with all the resources I'm feeling this, what about the women who have literally nothing in India to deal with their periods? And that made me start my journey. We started our journey by going on ground, literally to all the villages that we had access to nearby. We started talking to the locals and asking them how do they deal with their periods. It was not an easy conversation to start with because something as natural and biological as periods was so hushed that India's leading pad company is also called Whisper till date. So when we started talking to the women, we realized that they are experiencing a whole set of different problems than us, because out there the problem is not just that they're experiencing period pain. The problem is that they do not even have the access to the resources. They are using rags, they are using torn socks, they are using cloths. These are the common things that are found in villages instead of cloth pads or a normal pad for that matter. And I don't think they are to blame. I feel like there need to be period policies that go to women. I know currently India has a lot of policies where we get period products for very, very subsidized rates. But the problem is not that you get subsidized rates. The problem is it accessible to all the women in India? Do all the women know about these schemes? These are the things that we need to currently tap on. When I go to villages, every time I go, I realize that there's a new set of problems that I see. The most disturbing for me to see was once I went to distribute a cloth pad and I realized they didn't even have underwears in the first place. So how do you give cloth pad to someone who doesn't even have an underwear? And that is how deeply period poverty is engraved in India. There are so many misconceptions around, and everybody thinks that period taboo is just a problem of the villagers or a problem of the underprivileged. But is it? How many people in the urban places accept periods till date? There are so many women in urban places yet who do not enter the kitchen, who do not enter the temple. So let me tell you why people do not enter the kitchen. So initially, back then, like I'm talking about hundreds years ago, when people got periods, they had no resources. They didn't have hot water bags. They didn't have normal pads to wear. At that time, people were told that because there's no way you can manage your periods, you take a 3-day break and rest. So that was the entire reason for women not entering the kitchen. But you know how if you have played the game Chinese Whispers, you know how you say something and in the end there's a whole different thing that the last person says. In the exact same way, period information has come from do not enter the kitchen because you need to take a break and rest so they can manage your periods better. It has come down to do not enter the kitchen because you're untouchable. That is how the narrative has been passed down. So through my NGO, we have decided that there is not just one thing that you need to tap on, that is by making period pads available to all. There are 3 other factors. One is awareness, affordability, and accessibility. Unless period products are affordable to all, they will not be able to access them, and if there is no awareness created for them, how will they use it? A lot of people go to villages and give them menstrual cups. But do you think it's as easy to give them menstrual cup and make them use it? Do you think women will be open to something so new to them, something so alien to them? You have been told from years and years that you should use a pad, and suddenly you go and you show them a cup and you tell them, now use a cup. It is not as easy as it seems to be. So it is very important that we take it slow and we take it in the right way possible. That is start by awareness. First step is to clear all the misconceptions that are around periods. There are so many myths associated with periods. Do not wash your hair during your periods. Do not enter the kitchen. Do not eat something. Do not eat pickle. If you go near a tulsi plant, it will destroy. These are a lot of misconceptions that are surrounded by periods. First, you go and talk to them about that. Second most important part is you need to talk to them about the reproductive system. We are from urban places, yet in our schools, sex education was fully skipped. We were not taught about why we got periods. Till date, I promise if you go and ask 10 people, only 2 will know why we get periods in the first place. So it's important to show them that how periods is a natural and biological process. It is as basic as sweating when you're working out. So explain it to them that if it's as natural and if it is something that gives us birth to new people, then why are we hushing and why are we so against this topic? The most common questions I get asked is, how can men contribute? We do not even get periods. How do we understand this cause? Now you need to understand this. Few years back, period poverty was made a global issue. And something that is made a global issue, it means everyone, despite of the gender, is equally responsible for it. So it is important for men to be a part because this is not just a women's issue. Now how can you be a part of something like this? You start by first educating yourself. First you need to read up. Like for example, not everybody gets cancer, but we do read up about cancer and why it happens, right? It is as simple as that. If you don't get periods, that doesn't mean you should not know about it. So first thing is you start by educating yourself. Read about why women get periods. What is the period pain about? Do not crack any jokes that takes away the pain. I've heard a lot of people, when women are getting mood swings, they say, oh, are you PMSing? Are you in your periods? Do not crack jokes that will add on to the stigma more. Once you have educated yourself, Do not refrain from sitting in lectures that are about periods. Don't make yourself out of the scenario because you do not menstruate. Third, be a good ally. If you do not menstruate, it's important for you to understand what can you do to be a good ally. For example, let's say if someone's experiencing a lot of period cramps, you need to be educated enough. How can you help them manage it? For example, offer them hot water bag if possible. Offer them hot water in the first place. Nothing as expensive as getting chocolates. You can just stick to basic things like giving them water, giving them hot water bag. If not, some painkillers if it's possible. These are something that men can definitely do. Besides these things, there are other things that you can do. Volunteer if you can. If you have some time, volunteer in NGOs that are working actively to trying to eradicate period poverty. If you have the money resources but you do not have time, donate some amount of money because period products are expensive. Like for urban places, even we spend around 350 rupees per month. But when you say 350 in the villages, 350 is their daily wage. So they're spending the daily salary on a period product. So it is important that you give your time, you donate money, you educate yourself, and you do not crack any jokes that will take us back from where we are coming from. So these are a few things that men can do. Now, what can the teachers do? It is important that if a student is coming and telling you that I'm experiencing a lot of period pain, do not tell them that everybody gets that. What's so new about it? Period pain is very different for different people. Some people experience great amount of pain because there are so many underlying issues like endometriosis, PCOS, for which it gets difficult to experience a normal kind of pain. And some people do not get pain at all. So period pain is very subjective. If you do not get, it's important that you learn how to empathize with people who do get period pain. Our schools and our workspaces are where we spend most of our times, way more than we spend at our homes. And it is so important that our workspaces and school spaces create a safe space for people who menstruate so that they are able to speak about how they're experiencing their period pain. They can comfortably share with their elders that they have gotten periods and what can be the next step. A lot of times, women get to know about periods once they get it. And because they get to know once they get it, they freak out a lot. A lot of times they think that they are dying. And that is how it's important to talk about periods before one gets a period. Our NGO has done quite a lot of things when it comes to eradicating period poverty and breaking the taboo around periods. We try our best to go on ground and distribute pads for free. We make sure that we give them the choice of their own period product that they would like to choose and they would like to use. We educate men as much as possible to make them understand that periods is very natural and it's important for them to accept it because it's not just a women's issue like I've been mentioning. It is also important for us to make an online presence so that we can reach out to huge masses together. Because of that, we tap on social media as a very vital role in terms of eradicating period taboo. We make sure that we talk about myths and conceptions. We talk about what all food you should consume during your periods. We talk to men about how they should stop cracking jokes so that we don't go back in date. Our NGO has also done quite a lot of other works, like we also created a period magazine where we spoke to some influencers and talked to them about their experiences, and that magazine was solely on periods. We also created a period rap song where through a rap we tried to reach out to different people about periods. There is a lot we are doing, and it's very important for you all to join the movement with us so that we together can eradicate period poverty in India and make India a safe space for menstruators to talk about periods at the same time manage their periods, because it's important to know that menstrual hygiene is a human right and not a privilege. Thank you.